Hi, everyone. Welcome to your Friday afternoon habit. Welcome to hashtag Chakra Chat. And today, Chakra Chat is celebrating something special because we are celebrating our Pride Month. And we are very, very thankful for the guests that we have had in the past few days, in our past few episodes. We have, to name a few, we have Teacher Honey, Ron, the Thrive Sisters, Doc Tash, the Chakra Yoga teachers. And last time, when we have our Chakra Chat special during our celebration of the International Day of Yoga, we have Ben who also talked about plant-based lifestyle. I'm sure that those of you who have tuned in learned a lot of things, no, with Ben. And incidentally, Ben is also having his own podcast, and I'm sure that everyone would be very excited to listen to his insights in his podcast online thing. No? So, as I mentioned earlier, this is a special episode of Chakra Chat because we are talking about pride. And since this is a special episode, and I will be needing a special co-host. And joining us this afternoon is my special co-host. We have Teacher XT. Welcome to the show, Teacher XT.
Hi, Teacher Sam. Thank you for having me. Special co-host, good.
Of course,
Yeah,
you are.
it's not my first time here with Chakra Chat. So, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Chakra Chat on a Friday afternoon. The 2:30 habit that we have since the pandemic, diba? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Teach, you made mention about that you have been so busy the past few days, and earlier you were in Hakbang. Maybe you want to say something about it before we begin our program for today.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Hakbang Hackathon. So they have a 4-day event, and then we are so lucky with Chakra Yoga Studio to partner with them. So we started a yoga class this morning. I led the class this morning. It's a mindfulness class, and then tomorrow it's
Yeah.
Teacher Echo, and then my class, and then Teacher Sam. So it's very good because they have many topics that you can check. Just go to their website, hakbang.com, or you can check their Facebook page. We're currently live right now, eh. So they have a lot of topics that you can check. So it's really um, a very good, and also it's the first, I think, it's a Mindanaoan project. So it's very, very good that we have volunteers. And thank you so much, Hakbang, for giving us the opportunity to be with you before the start of the show. So it's really good that mag-yoga sa before we do the whole day event. And yeah, what else? Teacher Sam, for today is about Pride, right? It's the
Yes,
Pride
yes,
weekend. Yeah. So, ano na, are we okay na ba with our guest? Is our
yes.
guest ready?
I think it's our guest for today is very, very ready to share the advocacy that he has been working on for a good number of his life. By the way, our guest is um, a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Commerce, major in Business Management, Colegio de la Purísima Concepción School of the Archdiocese of Capiz, Rojas City. Yes, our speaker is our guest for today is at Ilonggo, and he graduated last March 2004, and now I believe that he is a lawyer. And in terms of his job history, his current work now is justice works on Justice Access and Learning Officer, HIV and AIDS Support House Incorporated. It's a Philippine NGO Council for Population Health and Welfare Incorporated. So he actually submitted a very, very long
Yeah, I know.
resume kasi masyadong busy, marami pinagkakaabalahan. I think
Super busy
magandang,
yan.
yeah, magandang pakinggan natin yung story niya, no? Because I'm sure that he has a lot to share about his advocacy and ano yung mga ipinaglalaban niya. So, hindi na natin patagalin. Let's all welcome
Yes.
Marcel.
Hi everything.
Hi, good
Hi, good
afternoon,
Hi,
afternoon,
Marcel.
good
Marcel.
afternoon. It's so good to see you again, Seven. Actually, the Justice Access and Learning Officer post that I'm currently holding right now, I've been the Jalo for short for 2 years now, and Seven was one of my
Yeah.
colleagues in the work. I no longer work under HIV and AIDS Support House, so I've been transferred to Gabay sa Pulang Laso Incorporated or GPLI. So GPLI has a shelter for people living with HIV. We home people who've been thrown out of their homes, those who have no place to stay, especially during the lockdown right now. During the ECQ periods, there are a lot of people who have been caught in the lockdown. Some of them have no place to stay. Some of them got fired out of their jobs because of the breakdown in the economy. So they were able to prepare for that eventuality. Pinapaalis na sila sa mga tinutuluyan nila. So we welcome them even if for a short period of time until they can get back on their feet and find something else to do. So Seven has been a friend since in the HIV advocacy as well, and has been a wonderful sister to me as well. We teasingly call each other Cassie and Marga. So siya yung Margita.
Oo.
Siya si Margaret. Because there was this it started with this young vlogger kid na si You Don't Know. It started there, and that has become a
Yeah.
running joke for for forever. So hi Teacher Sam, you're with Xavier, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I have a few friends as well. I think who, because I'm also a writer, and I do write poetry and short stories for children and such. So I have also friends who are from there in the writing community, and I was thinking, I hope you could invite me next time there to
Yeah,
para iba naman.
I think
Yes,
it
ayan
does.
na.
Yeah. So
Sige,
I'm really excited about
Marcel.
this afternoon because for the past few months, because of the lockdown, webinars have become a thing. So I've
Mhm.
been asked with pleasure, of course, to um, lecture on different topics that revolve around the HIV and AIDS advocacy, the human rights campaign, LGBT rights. So, ang dami nun, ano. And also with helping with the work that I do for Gabay sa Pulang Laso. So, I talked about what we do there. Ito talaga, when Seven asked me to do this chakra chat, I was really excited. I was asking him, what do I talk about? Because it's a lesser known component of my life, the
Yeah.
spirituality part. But he knows because he's seen me post notices that I'd be gone from Facebook and social media for 24 hours because I've been practicing Vipassana rituals. Actually, Vipassana is 10 days. I can't afford that. With the exigency of modern living, I can't afford to be gone for 10 days. So what I do instead is I call it a 24-hour mini Vipassana. So what I do is I shut down, probably lurk. I still check my feeds for important matters that might necessitate breaking, but I don't engage. I don't post anything. I don't comment. I don't answer chats. Even uh, my SMS is just on standby mode. So I get messages but I don't reply, and then yun lang, purposeful silences, and then I'd go into hours of meditative silence na wala talaga, and breathing exercise, very basic. So, that's what I do. Doon niya ako nahuli. Doon niya ako nahuli sa announcement ko na, ay, you practice pala mindfulness. And yeah, I do. It's a lesser known part of my life that I do that. And then, yeah, that's that. And maybe that's why he invited me here. Sa dami ko sinasabi ba?
Okay lang, ano ka ba? So,
So,
Teacher
Marcel,
Sam, what are the questions that we prepared for Marcel for this afternoon?
yeah, I'm actually interested, Marcel, no? Since you have somehow mentioned naman yung mga pinagkakaabalahan mo, what you are currently involved in, I'd like to ask na lang, how did you know that you are actually part of the colorful LGBT community? And how was your experience of coming out, especially to your family and to your loved ones? I think a lot of our viewers are interested to know your story and how you became part of the LGBT community.
Nakakaloka, hindi kayo makapasok sa akin, ano, minumute niyo na ako. Naiinggit ako when people talk about their coming out stories because I don't have one. My coming out is more of an intellectual acceptance. I was high school then, elementary, grade 5, grade 6. And we were talking about Christian living, love. So parang sabi ko, parang genderless naman ng love according to what Jesus is teaching. Hindi naman niya sinabing kailangan babae lalaki. He never mentioned about love being just between man and a woman, except for Old Testament laws that mention about love being gendered. So parang ako, um, I realized that uh, if two people love each other and are actually good together, they're a fit, they enjoy each other's company, they relish and grow in each other's presence. Why should it stop them from being together they have the same just because they're of the same sex or just because of there are the same things that dangle between their legs? Why should it define an emotion as diverse and as deep as love? So parang ako, that was my coming out, quote unquote. Kasi I got attracted to guys and I got attracted to girls. So parang for me, bakit kailangan pigilan ng sarili na makasama in that sense ang isang tao na gusto ka rin, just because you're of the same sex. So, naiinggit ako sa maalaala moment ng mga coming out stories ng mga kapatid natin because I did not have a coming out. My coming out is more of an intellectual acceptance that this is me and I am not about to question myself. Emotions are to be experienced and validated, not questioned. So parang when I had my first same-sex relationship, romance, he was an older guy. Actually, he was a professor. So parang I liked him. He liked me back, and I don't see anything wrong with what we do. It was, to my mind, something pure. Like we enjoy each other's company when we're together. We talk about a lot of things that I cannot talk to with my peers. He enjoys my company because talks to me about things that he cannot talk about with his peers. So, more on the attraction is intellectual. So, parang ako naman, hey, I like this person and he likes me back. And I like how it feels when we're together. So, why should it stop me from being with this person or allowing him to be with me just because we're the same sex? So, it happened like that to me. Wala akong bonggang-bonggang coming out stories na tearful or very maalaala. However, on coming out kasi, I believe that it's not a one-time thing. You don't come out one time and announce to the world that, hey, I'm a rainbow. For me, coming out kasi is a continuous process all through your life. You come out every day, siguro. You come out to your family, you come out to the workplace. Every time you have a new job, you come out. You come out to the community. Coming out is not a one-time thing. You do it several times in your life.
Tama naman yun. Parang, ano naman siya, parang iba-iba kasi tayo, di ba? So, at on that, thank you so much for sharing on that aspect of your life. And then I just want to inject this part since you've mentioned a while ago about Vipassana. How did it started? Parang, can you give us a little bit of siguro a chunk of that story of your life, why you got into Vipassana, into meditation, just to ano to connect the you've shared kanina. Parang I just want to know that
I just want to know
story or
that
how it
story or
started.
how it started.
But I'm basically a very accepting person. No? So I'm very inclusive as a person, not just with what I do in the community, but with everything as a whole. There was a community of musicians who were into I think they call themselves Ananda Marga, if I'm not mistaken. And for a time in my life, I've also dabbled or also done comparative religions. You know, the search to find God and divinity, because with the way things are in the Catholic faith, shut up, don't ask questions, just do this. So I don't work that way. I'm someone who questions a lot of things, no? So I question norms, I question beliefs. Bakit ganito, di ba? So maybe it's part of my inquisitive nature. So I came across that group. They were wonderful. They practiced good um, uh, relationship with other people, and also with my journey in the Wiccan religion, because I also do salutations to the rising sun. I believe in goddess centric theosophy. Yun, so they introduced me to meditation, and um, doon nag-start yung interest ko with Vipassana. I researched, I talked to them, and I found out what it's all about. For me kasi, ever since I got introduced to meditation, it has done a lot of good for me. It has improved my everyday life. You know, it doesn't have to, you don't have to really set aside a big chunk of time for meditation. You know, in between meetings while riding the jeep or the MRT, you can just focus, center, 5 minutes, just drown out the crowd, and right there and then, it improves my mood for the next meeting. It improves my concentration. It improves my reception of new information. Or maybe in a busy meeting, you can just step out, go to the restroom, take a 5 minute breather, center, and close your eyes and do a quick thing. Maybe the practice also grows with you, because if you're a beginner, it might not be that easy to drown out the noise, to drown out your thoughts, especially your thoughts. I think with Vipassana, the most important thing is I realize kasi sila nagre-retreat talaga sila. They go out of the city, they go to a Vipassana camp, no, to retreat na 10 days talaga yon. But I realized that for me, that's why the 24-hour Vipassana worked for me, because I realized that the real noise that needs tuning out is not the noise of the world outside. It's actually the noise of your inner being.
Yeah.
A lot of your thoughts occupy your brain, a lot of things that you feel like you need to say. It's the internal noise actually that needs tuning out more than the external.
Marcel, I will be flashing some of the questions that we have. We actually have two questions right now, but I think this one is interesting because this is connected to the first statement that you have. And this is one of my former students who became part of the LGBT community as well, and very happy to be part of that community. We have here Guilford. Guilford is saying that what do you think now about other people who believe that coming out just affirms to this wait lang just affirms to the problematic notion of having to explain oneself in order to be accepted when heterosexual people do not have to explain themselves at all.
That's a very wonderful question, Guilford. Thank you for that. No, so you can look at it two ways. Kasi, true, that view can also be correct. No, that that's more on the a very what do you call this? Very activistic uh, way of thinking that hey, I exist and I don't have to explain myself to others. That's valid as well, no? However, personally, I believe that the reason why there is a need for us to continuously come out, because it's also self-determination, and it also sends out the message to the world that we are allies. So if we just shut up and just figure me out, we'll never know who are the people who we can call a community and who we can run to or go to when there is a need for community. Um, the need for coming out as well is rooted on self-determination and self-expression. I do not come out because I need to tell people what I am. I need to come out because this is me being true to myself. So babalik siya sa self-determination. And on the other end of the spectrum as well, ang sabi daw ng isang philosopher, I forgot it, it's Lao Tzu. Um, if you seek to be understood, then you really have to explain yourself, 'di ba? Parang lesson lang 'yan, ano? How would you expect people to understand you if you don't give them cues, and if you don't give them guides as well on how to understand you, 'di ba? Kasi hindi naman lahat ng tao magaling sa pagbasa ng personality. And as well as it also avoids the confusion of mislabeling. Kasi pag mahaba ang buhok, naka-makeup, drag agad or transsexual agad, which is not the case, di ba? So unless you come out and unless you tell people your self-determination, you are also opening the doors to you being misrepresented or being misinterpreted or being mislabeled. So that's why sometimes people have to come out to correct the notions of what other people think about them. So, yun, two-way din naman yun. Pero I understand the sentiment that's very activistic, that's very um, progressive na pag-iisip na I am me, I don't have to explain myself because straight people didn't have to explain themselves. However, matik sa ating education system kasi in gender and sexuality that the gender of heterosexuals are being explained. They didn't need to explain themselves because the educational system explained them. While the educational system is still not inclusive of people like us, then we need to educate them. Some people kasi they really want to understand. Hence, we create dialogue this way as well. Did I answer your
I think that's a very good answer to the question, Marcel. There's another one. Our guest last time in our Chakra chat talked about plant-based lifestyle, and he also places his question here. Ben asks, "Is same-sex marriage not legal in the PI? I think it's in the Philippines due to religious influence, or is it more political?" Thanks for the panel for having this discussion. Any thought? Any thought?
I think it's both. I think it's both. Funny how I'll talk about the religious aspect first, because for me, everything is political. Even even your economic activities, even your relationships, even sex is political for me. So it's all encompassing. The personal is political. So yung religious aspect muna. Funny how people say that we are a religious country and that we are tawag nito, uh, conservative as a country. No, we're not. Newsflash, we're not. Look at the instances of the rate of teenage pregnancy. If that alone says anything, it says loud and clear that we are not conservative. Okay? So forget about your concept of the Philippines being conservative. It's not. We'd like to think we are, but we are not. Ang laki ng ang laki ng teenage pregnancy rate sa Pilipinas. How can you be conservative if your teenagers are getting pregnant? So, first, yes, it's religious because for the longest time, the Catholic Church has always held this control or this power over their flock, and as well as how politics or policies are being made in the Philippines. hindi lang naman in fairness siguro sa Catholic Church as well as other religious sectors as well, no, and other religious groups are also exerting in a way their influences to how policies are being made in the government, ano. That's why I'm sorry. With that, it is important to note that marriage, same-sex marriage, should be distinguished as not marriage as in the religious sense, because we don't want to get married in their churches as well, because most of those who seek to have partnerships that are same sex have already developed their own religious practices, and are not non-practicing Catholics na, or they don't belong to a religious group or a religious sect for that matter. So wala namang desire to march down the aisle of Manila Cathedral, I think, or something like that. Ano? So it's never about marriage as a religious sacrament. It's about marriage as civil right. No? The civil connotations of same-sex marriage, such as next of kin status. Importante tong next of kin status. Last time we talked about LGBT rights in the context of the COVID crisis, no? So if you don't have next of kin status, even if you've been living together for 20 years, 30 years, something happens to your partner, you cannot decide for medical emergencies for the partner because you do not possess the next of kin status. That's why it's important. Partners who've been living together for more than 20 years, suddenly si partner nagka-COVID, you cannot even decide, you cannot even take out the body to be brought the to the funeral home. So it's very important, no, more than just the what's happening right now. It highlighted the need for people to understand that marriage equality is not about rights, rights, hindi siya ritual. It's not about sacraments, it's about rights, right's, karapatan. So there, with that, because interchangeable ang politika at ang relihiyon sa Pilipinas, so my answer to
Mm-hmm.
that would be both. And somehow, there's spark of hope because politics change over time. No? So if there's one thing that I can say with the current administration that's good, somehow it broke down certain untouchable institutions that are um, up there in Philippine society and Philippine politics and governance that are now being exposed for their vulnerabilities. No? So, dati, you speak up against a bishop, you get excommunicated, you get, you get, you don't get confession, you don't get communion. So there, now we understand that more than ever, it's important to um, stand by and talk about our rights and marriage equality in the concept of it being a civil right, not ano lang yun next of kin pa lang yun. Wala pa dun yung
Mm-hmm.
owning properties, no? In the concept of co-owners and partners. Wala pa dun yung raising children. Wala pa dun yung yung ganung usapin in terms of adoption, no? Wala pa dun yung mutual support na kapag nagkasakit or something happens, you can include your partner in your insurances. We're not talking about that yet, di ba? So ang dami kasi niya hindi lang kasi siya iniisip lang kasi natin yung glam na ay magpapakasal, mag-march down the aisle. There's more to marriage than
Mm-hmm.
just that. It's more obligations than just the glam idea and the romanticized idea of you tying the knot with the one you love. Diba? As a law graduate, as a Juris Doctorate, that's why I'm single and I will never get myself married because it involves a lot. And in the Philippines, yun din ang isa pa na sinasabi ko. I think it is also important to talk about divorce in the Philippines, disobey marriage equality. You get into something that you can never get out of. Diba? So kahit heterosexual couples, it's an issue. So alongside talking about marriage equality, we should also talk about dissolution of that marital bond if it doesn't work anymore. So yun, dapat alongside. Did I answer your question?
Okay. Thank you for that, Marcel. At least na-discuss mo yung, na-touch mo yung part na yun. And then, thank you so much also, Ben, for raising that question. The next question, somehow related din to, na medyo nabanggit mo na din sa, for the past minutes kanina. I just want to know, how has your advocacy evolved through the years? Since you started, parang, what led you to be a strong advocate of the LGBT rights? And then, how do you promote this advocacy in your daily undertakings? Tapos, i-add ko na din if ever meron kang persistent challenges and issues of the community.
Right. Napaka very very Miss World ang tanong. Very Miss World. I think everyone grows in advocacy. You can't start with um, sustainable developmental goals in day one, 'di ba? Maybe you start with something that you deeply care about, that you think should be given more attention. Ako kasi, yun ang sinasabi ko that you cannot cherry pick an advocacy. If you are developmental, if you are in an advocacy, you have to understand that, sabi ni Joey Ayala, ang lahat ng bagay ay magkaugnay. The struggle for one sector and the struggle for the other sector is perpetuated by the same structure of power, no? What oppresses women is what oppresses the LGBT community. What puts into danger the PLHIVs is the same factors and the same system that puts into jeopardy the environment, di ba? Isa lang. That's why if you're an advocate, you have to understand that in my journey, I think lagi nilang sinasabi all in kasi yan si attorney, pwedeng envilo, pwedeng pwedeng child rights, pwedeng women's rights, pwedeng LGBT rights. Kasi if you understand that the struggle, the thread of the struggle, kay LGBT, kay women's rights, kay PLHIV, kay children, kay urban poor, kay food sustainability, kay environmental, iisa lang ang thread. Kasi nga, iisa lang din ang oppressor. Iisa lang din ang yung sistema na nagdudulot nito ng lahat-lahat. So if you understand where the struggle is coming from, it's not hard to ally yourself. Minsan 'di ba, parang nauso sa Facebook a few months ago na parang sinasabi nila na um, trans advocate ka pero pero hindi mo alam yung struggle ng magsasaka. I mean, they can exist, no? They don't have to be exclusive, no? They can exist within their own zones, no? And it doesn't have to be all encompassing. There are just advocates who are in the level of their advocacies who have embraced these things. Kaya importante din sa isang advocate na nag-grow din siya. Importante din sa advocate na katulad niyan, this is a recent development for me as well, no? Because I continually learn. To be very honest, it took me around 4 years or more to really understand transgenderism. One, it's not my gender identity. So outside my own body, outside my own experience. Two, it's something that's not been discussed thoroughly in even in the LGBT circles. And three, it has been for a time also associated with kaya sila nababastos kasi 'di ba they also go into sex work, something like that, no? So in order for me to understand really the struggle of transgender people, it took me 4 years. Hindi siya ganun kadali. You can't understand it one time, big time, uupuan, magbabasa ka. It's not that. It's a journey as well. Same with my advocacy with the HIV community. Ngayon ko lang din naiintindihan fully why there is a need for us to also include PWIDs or people who inject drugs. For the longest time, it has always been demonized that if you are a drug user, you're a bad person. So ngayon ko lang din naintindihan that it's a complex it's a complex that involves societal factors, economics, and political as well. Why the number of people who inject drugs or who use drugs have risen. No, kasama na doon yung poverty, kasama na doon yung pagpapabaya, kasama na doon yung rising incidences of mental health issues. So for me, ngayon ko lang din naiintindihan fully bakit kasama yung PWID doon sa PLHIV na struggle. Kasi unless we understand where these things are coming from and what creates these marginalizations, pag binangga mo kasi siya sa personal beliefs mo, you'd get lost. You'd get lost. So, syempre, personally, I'd be always willing to say that I will never promote drug use. Diba? So that's a personal value that I hold dear. So I will never use anything to destroy my body. But if I start judging other people just because I don't believe the way they do, I'd never understand their stories. I'd never get into the deeper reasons why these things happen. No? So ang pinaka mahirap siguro to answer your question also, Seven, pinakamahirap siguro na struggle for me in the advocacy is overcoming personal biases. Napaka na, napaka tawag nito, napaka opinionated kong tao, and when I develop a stand after much reading, researching, hindi kasi ako knee jerk reactor. I don't immediately pick a side. Maybe also because of my maybe because also of my law training. You listen to the other side of the story, you listen to the other side of the story, ibangga mo kung ano ba ang batas, and you listen to readings, and has the Supreme Court spoken about this before, has the good magistrates spoken about this before, and then iba, that's the time when you develop a personal stand, and that's the time that I'd come out with my stand. So, alam ni Seven yan pag nagtatanong siya sa akin ng current events. It takes me time to, sasabihin ko siya, teka lang, nagbabasa pa ako. I don't need jerk kasi. Kasi critical kasi na malaman mo muna yung both sides of the story. Especially when I make a stand, I make sure that watertight yung magiging stand ko, that I can answer objections to the stand. No? So, hindi ako basta-basta nakiki-bandwagon. So, it takes time for me to have a stand. No? So, yun. And one of the hardest thing the hardest obstacle to overcome in the advocacy for me is overcoming personal biases. Kasi we all have personal biases. So, yun ang pinaka mahirap for me.
Thank you for that, Marcel. We have a very persistent viewer joining us. Guilford again has another question, which I'm sure will excite you, Marcel, to answer again. Yes, often Philippines is branded as an accepting quote unquote nation for the LGBT community. But within the community and within the Filipino society, growing slurs between queer still exist, like okay lang naman maging bakla basta wag masyadong halata, o kaya okay lang naman maging Becky basta hindi FM. So ang question niya is, so are we accepting or just tolerating in a way?
Napakaganda ng tanong mo, Guilford, no. Maybe we'll have coffee one of these days and we'll talk about certain things, no. Upo tayo and discuss. Napaka-anthropological ng tanong. I agree with you that Filipinos are fond of slurs, no. Not just in the LGBT community, but as well as in the racial um, in the racial profiling. No, we have a term for every other race in the world. No, we have a term for blacks, we have a term for Indians, we have a term for whites, we have a term for Caucasians, and all these are slurs. No, so parang ano kasi, I'd say that there's a study for that, which disputed, I'm sorry, and refuted the statement that the Philippines is accepting. No, we're not. We're just tolerating. Even in the community kasi, mahirap din kasi to draw the line between what we find humorous in the sense of our twisted humor, and kung nakakadagdag ba ito sa ating struggle, or nakakadagdag ba ito sa pagpapaintindi. Sige, didiretsuhin ko na. We have the image of a cross-dressing gay man in the Philippines who dominate the airwaves, who is openly gay, but is actually throwing slurs here and there for the community. Diba? I'm talking about Vice Ganda. Ang sayang kasi, sobrang laki ng impluensya niya, sobrang laki ng reach niya, pero siya mismo hindi klaro at hindi maingat, and he just shrugs it off in the name of humor or entertainment, 'di ba? Kahapon lang, I have a friend who gustong-gusto ko na siyang i-PM. Naiirita ako sa post niya. He posted a photo of collage of military men in the US. And well, they were shirtless. They had rock abs, they had beautiful bodies, guapo, the usual guapo, the way people define guapo. Because I define guapo in a different way. So the pop culture definition of what's guapo, what's hot. Tapos ang caption niya is, so ano ba mga bakla, payag na ba ulit kayong magbukas ang US basis, tuloy ulit ang PFA? Gustong gusto ko siya i-PM because I know for a fact that he was one with us when we were clamoring for justice for Jennifer Laude. Parang, ting, asan ka na, di ba? Nasaan napunta yung justice for Jennifer Laude? You are making this as a joke. It's a sexist joke. This is hypersexualization, and you forgot that once upon a time, we were, alam mo yun, asking for justice for Jennifer Laude, and this included necessarily the US bases in the Philippines. And here we are making it a funny, sexualized thing about naked armed forces US men. Parang, gustong gusto ko na sa APM na anyari te. Sometimes kasi that's the thing, if we're not careful about what we find entertaining, maybe it's also a question of curating ourselves na parang wait lang, hindi ko naman sinasabi na maging dry sap tayo na walang kahumor-humor sa buhay, but um can we please elevate our entertainment values, and especially so if we put out ourselves as advocates, kasi it sends out the wrong image, diba? It sends out the wrong hypersexualization. It contributes to all these Clifford, no? Yun na nga, also othering, hindi lang naman sa community, hindi lang naman sa LGBT community, it's also the same with women's rights, 'di ba? So parang the same self-effacing jokes na gwapo ka nga, bottom naman. So, hello, it's 2020 na may bottom shaming pa rin. Di ba parang, malaki nga
Yeah,
katawan, oh, di ba? Malaki nga katawan, zoots naman. Hello, meron bang ganong issue, di ba? It's just a piece of flesh. Can we get over ourselves and, just improve our entertainment? Parang ano lang yan eh. Same ng joke ng women empowerment, pero nanghihingi sa asawa ng papaparlor. It's a common joke, 'di ba? It's a common joke. But parang ikaw yung commander sa bahay, pero hanggang kwintas ka lang. The guy buys you something expensive and you melt. Parang ganun siya. It's the same thing. So these are all, being just um, swept aside as jokes and as something to laugh about, but it does contribute to why the community is misunderstood. Parang ganun, Clifford, kanina tinatanong mo, why do I have to explain myself? because not everyone understands, and unless we clarify and unless we put out a clear message on what really are we fighting for, then we'd never get understood and we'd never get them to understand our struggles.
All right, thank you so much for that, Marcel. Na ano mo siya, parang na-discuss mo din talaga yung mga important topics na very current din naman. And yeah, ang dami mong na-discuss actually. So I think parang kailangan pa natin to ng siguro mag-ano tayo nito, parang sequel or ano bang gagawin natin. But um, I just wanna add or parang I just wanna insert this question. Um, what is your message to the young LGBT people na nakikinig right now? Ganun lang, with that message, ano yung gusto mong iparating sa kanila?
Babalik ako doon sa self-determination. Before you can even hope to function or before you can even hope to be part of a community and part of a communal struggle for better acceptance and better rights for a community that you belong to. First, babalik ka sa self mo. No? So me, it's a lifelong journey for me to always be at peace with myself and always be uh, in works that give dignity to the self. No? So dignidad. Um, sorry, all human rights are all based on that one word, dignity. Namumuhay ka ba ng may dignidad? If ang nangyayari sa'yo is nakakaramdam ka na hindi na wala ng dignidad ang ginagawa mo sa buhay, or if may ginagawa ka na nakakabawa sa dignidad ng ibang tao, you're in the wrong track already. My message to young LGBT people is first, find yourself. Unahin muna yung sarili bago makilahok sa community. Marami kasi sa atin, we've been just talking, Ryan Silverio of ASEAN Soji Caucus and I have been talking about the young breed of advocates and uh, rights defender, duty bearers who seem to have a wrong notion of what advocacy is. A-applyan lahat ng international forums, a-applyan lahat ng international lahat ng international lectures, lahat ng international, because they think that this is what the struggle is all about. But no, it's not. It's about going back to the community, and if you just have a group of 3 people, 5 people who you are empowering, that's the work that needs to be done. Not everyone can be in the international boardroom talking about policy development if you don't know a thing about um, international issues, di ba? So ako, I'd rather be in a shelter that takes care of 6, 10 people at a time rather than sit in a board of an international organization that um, does nothing but push paper. Alam mo yun? Nothing but push paper. No, I'd rather impact real lives, real time, than not everyone can sit in the boardrooms. Napaka-glam kasi tignan na yung mga models kasi natin for the advocacy na they speak in the UN General Assembly, they have engagements in the international community. It has been parang a benchmark for advocates to be able to achieve. But this is not achieving for the self, this is achieving for the community, di ba? You hold an international position, lahat na you're board member of all international organizations, but nothing's happening in your locality. You can't even pass a barangay ordinance for the protection of LGBT people. So what's the use of your international accolades if you do not bring about real change? And all you do is push paper and fly here and there, and the jet setting life that does not translate to change in the local perspective, diba? I'd rather be ahead of a buconera who be a head of a buconera that exchanges gowns with each other than be a sit in an international board. There you make a difference all the more. Ah, if I may, can I have a 10-minute break? I have an important grab delivery. I'll just grab it and then I'll hop back right in.
Go, 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 proceed. So we have an
Sure,
intermission
Marcel.
first.
So while Marcel is yeah,
Yeah,
deposited
yeah,
on that.
actually,
So what are
yung sa teach.
what are your thoughts so far?
Daghan siya na
What are
discuss
your
na
thoughts
very,
so
very
far?
interesting. So, ang ano man good karon is, di ba, the topic that we had right now is just highlight about the pride, and then, our theme is not always rainbows. Yeah, yung na, natubag yun niya ang about not always rainbows, which is actually, that's my last question eh. But, I know that Marcel is really, ang iyang manggong the way he deliver, and then ang iyang, the way he justify pud sa about sa katong mga question or sa mga issues are really true. Parang, yeah, this is reality. And then, we do have a lot of LGBT pod na unreached. Like, of course, the vulnerable community, nasa mga grassroots. Ako, I've been with the LGBT community for a short while na po dayon. Then, yeah, daghan kaayo mga oppression, mga, kanang day-to-day, daily ni siya kakahitabo. And we have also the Muslim LGBT, we also have the IPs, and many, many. Then, ang ano lang dana is, ako lang nakabantayan is, not all LGBT are, what bitaw gaka-focus sila on these issues and that, but they always forget about self-care. And also, like, that's why I'm really admiring Marcel, because he has time to meditate, and he has, pag kabalo na siyang it's too much, ano na sa stop lang sa gid, because we need that, especially at these trying times with the pandemic. Daghan kayo struggle ang kakahitabo, everyone is affected. Walay we need na pwede mag single out lang, keso din keso na sa syudad or ana-ana, keso na quarantine and all, but everyone is affected. Like, atong mental state is not really it's different, like 4 months ago. Kung, di ba, pag atong nalabantayan nga lahig yun. But we Filipinos are, we are resilient on that. So kinahanglan na gyud nato na we embrace this new normal. And then, in the celebration with Pride, ang amo lang yung nakabantayan pod for the past years is, kana laging we need to be very inclusive yun. Kana, that's very number one. Like, i-reach tanan, walay pilion, mga inana ba. Like, on the celebration of Pride, dili lang bitaw nga, there kanang, of course, nakuha na maginatan, no one should be left behind, nana, because the LGBTQIAP taas kinang letters, but appeal bayaan na sa community mismo ang state, because we have the ally, di ba? So that we have also daghan pud right now, we don't know na someone's listening as well na wala pa net out, like kana ang coming out also is, even the disclosure takes time. Na siya right time for that. Dili mo siya pwede mapugos. Muna nga, outing is really, kana mag-out ka og someone, or making, or ka-prejudge na lugar ka sa person, is that really. And then also, na-mention po ni Marcel na we need to be aware as well with asking with the gender pronoun of the people. 'Di ba, Marcel, parang we need to ask first. Kaya it's dili kita mo judge directly. Wala may problema if we ask. Now, what is your gender pronoun? Or kung sa ko itawag sa imo, will I call you sir or ma'am or nana, 'di ba? Kay sila man nakabalo silang self-good. So, that's the very notion of the Filipino na until now at 2020 mao pagyapon na ang atong but of course it's not always the parang that's always the struggle. Day to day na siya na struggle. So welcome back, Marcel. Me and Sam were just checking on the parang amo lang gi-check ang mga questions, and then what we have gone so far for the past, like, we're running to an hour naman dani sa storya, no? Because the topics are very, very broad, and I know this is not enough, but we will be glad if we can invite you again for a part two, or even a part three for this, with other LGBT people, because I know that, as I've said a while ago, I admire you because you take time to have self care. As an advocate as well, ako, I know that I was also burned out for a short while, but and then ako na realize that it's okay magid na mag-help, pero nagya pa limitation. So, 'di ba? So you need to, of course, you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of others, because that's very, very important. And And the advocacy that we are dealing, lisod siya, di ba? Lisod siya to say no, but it's really important as well that we need to practice that nga. Kabalo kita nga, okay, until here lang. So going back to you, Marcel, my question is, these are like, I think we're run to our last two or three questions na. Um, I just want to ask you if, what are, kaning sa topic or with the topic that we had right now, not always rainbows. Unsang imong parang what's your take on this? Is it like a general theme or yeah or pwede it's a personal attack on you? How would you answer the not always rainbows?
Actually, I fell in love with the theme, no. But before I answer the question, I heard you talk about resiliency and about outing, no. So yeah, correct. Um, Outing is a very very personal thing. There's no formula how to come out. It's a very very personal thing. Your circumstances, the way your support group, the way your parents are, or the way the people that you want to come out to are, would spell all the difference. So wala siyang one time big time formula when the perfect time to come out would be. And like I said, it's not a one time thing. You come out every day, no, in different circumstances, in different situations, you come out. Yun, natatawa ako doon sa sinasabi mo na yung mislabeling and misgendering. Parang minsan kasi 'di ba, when you know, when you are out an LGBT person, you get called Bax, Mads, Mare, Ate, Zel. Parang nakakahiya naman sa makapal kong bigote and you call me Madam. Di ba? Parang I identify as cisgender. And sometimes, if you call them out, ikaw yung masama, ikaw yung maldita. Di ba? Maldita mo naman, ayaw mong patawag na bakla, ayaw mong patawag na mare. Di ba? Parang, can we please, parang be, di ba? You call everyone be. No, I'm not your beb. No? In the guise of being nice and being polite and being warm, we call people terms of endearment that are not appropriate. Call them by their names. Diba? Be, kamusta ka na? Ah, I'm not your be. I'm not your be. Excuse me, di ba? You're relating to me as a legal person. You call me be? Really? Hindi tayo nakaabot sa ganung level ng pagkakaibigan for you to call me be. That's the thing with over exposure to social media. No, not everyone's your be. Yun, sa resiliency as well, oh my God, can we please stop romanticizing resiliency? That is the reason why we do not call out certain people or certain government officials or certain agencies that need to take care of us because we've always been hammered by the idea that we are resilient. And if we don't bounce back, it's our fault. No, we shouldn't be resilient. We should be self-sufficient and we should be helped by people who are tasked with helping us. Enough with resiliency. 'Di ba? Nakakaloka, 'di ba? Matapos ang bagyo, ang Pilipino ay babangon. Chorba, 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 ek. Make sure that the next bagyo that will come will not be this devastating because you can. It's a matter of urban planning. It's a matter of disaster preparedness. It's a matter of policy. And alam mo yun, we've been stormed all our lives and still, bata pa ako, 6 years old pa lang ako, nagre-relief operations na kami ng mga damit when I'm still doing it in my 40s. Haven't we developed a comprehensive policy that will address this because we know that year in, year out, we have storms. Ay, alam mo yon, and you all romanticize it by being resilient. I'm sorry, forgive my French, but that's bullshit. Alam mo yun? Yun na nga, I really, going back, nairita ako, triggered. Going back to not always rainbows. I fell in love with the topic because when people think about pride, when people think about the LGBT Pride Month, most of them think about colorful floats and pageantry and glitters and gay parades and all that jazz. But it's not always rainbows. Truth be told, the life of an LGBT individual is not a pride march. It's not a Bucon. It's not the host will call on you and you get to sashay in your evening gown or your Filipiniana or your. It's not that at all. So most often than not, the rainbows are there for just a matter of seconds, and the rest is gloom and rains. No, so I love the connotation of not always rainbows more than just the pageantry of it all, more than just the glam that's being put out there in media. Uh, Being an LGBT is a struggle. It's a whole lifelong struggle of the self, of the community, and of the country and of the world at large. No, so I love the concept that while it's not always rainbows, but when the rainbow comes, no matter how briefly we see it, it's a cause for celebration. It's a cause for joy.
Thank you very much, Marcel. One of my key takeaways is when you mentioned the importance of authenticity. There are a lot of advocates who seem to be quite good in the outside, na parang they are selling a product, no? Na they're really fighting for a cause. But in fact, these are advocates that seem to hide in the guise of their personal agenda, and we've seen a lot of these people working, trying to say that they are advocates of something, not just necessarily LGBT. And they're just
Yeah.
pushing their personal agenda out in the open para mas sumikat sila and para their own causes will be celebrated. But I agree also with Teacher Exi that this has been very, very amazing conversation, Marcel. No? Thank you very much for joining Chakra. But I think that the next time we do this, perhaps Guilford can also join us because Guilford actually has one final question for you, and this is also very interesting.
Yeah.
So let me just flash the question and read Guilford's question. Final question: should there be a greater call for more rapid overhaul for our education system in the basic education unit to teach that LGBT representation is also erased in our history as a result of colonialism? Since in our indigenous communities, the queers are represented in their community, like Babaylan, Balyan, Asog of Leyte, and the term Mente Fuwale of the Tiburay in Mindanao. But often than not, it is only in the universities where these terms are discussed and taught in history.
Ang
So
ganda ng
yeah,
mga tanong ni Guilford, ano? Ang bongga ng mga tanong ni Guilford from the psychosocial aspect to the tawag nito, to the so, socio-political, to the anthropological. Now he goes into demagology and and curriculum development. Ang taray! Ganito, yes, there is always a need for, as educational systems are bound to and should adjust to the rapid changing society. Kailangan naman talaga na evolve din ang curricula, no? So, but first we have to sit down and agree among ourselves, what do we want? How do we want the curricula? You cannot just ask for something to be changed without offering an alternative, di ba? If we change this, what do we change it with? Diba? What exactly do we want to change it with? I believe that though there is a need or there is a call for a change in the educational system, I agree, because the educational system that we have right now is um, hindi siya dynamic, one-sided. I'm the teacher, I give out, you the students, you take in. And then I test you with how much you learn. That's how the educational system works right now, right? But there are alternative learning systems that do not adopt these anymore. Diba? Dated na rin ang educational system. American time pa yan, comma sites, no? Sit down, I'm the mom, I teach you, and shut up, don't answer. Well, except when I call your name. That's how it is, right? He also mentioned about it not being taught except in universities. Again, the influence of um, Catholic education, Christian learning into the educational institutions. Maloka ka. I lecture on HIV awareness, and ABC for me it's a basic abstinence, be faithful, condom use, don't do drugs, educate yourself, and prep and pep. Pupunta ako sa isang school and they were like saying, you know how they define the ABC? A, always pray. B, Bible. C, confession. Come on, di ba? Di, manuloka ka. May ganyang pagtitwist ng ABC ng HIV advocacy, ng HIV education. A, always pray. B, Bible reading. C, confess your sins. That's how they do it there. Diba? So parang, first and foremost, how do we revolutionize the educational system? Isang malaking usapin to that deserves a whole different um, podcast altogether, all a different uh, show all on its own. And maybe we can invite academicians and curriculum development experts to speak on that. No, so my point being is that unless we have a clear understanding or we have a clear direction as where we want to take this, then we cannot just call for a change in the educational system when we do not have a clear idea of what we want. Diba? We can't just call for radical changes if we do not know what to replace it with. No? And also, uh, well, that's a good thing as well that while this is all going on, there are universities as well and there are schools as well who have pocket learning sessions about these things. No, it's very very close to me because um, even in the Hiligaynon literature, in the Hinilawod, they were there is no such thing as napaka-gender fluid ng Hinilawod. In the story of Labaw Dunggon and Humadap Nun, he went to an island, an enchanted island called Tarangban. While there, he was captured and enamored by powerful Busalians, babaylans, nagmalitong niya, lubay hangin nun and sinangkating bulawan. So he was enslaved in that cave, no? So his wife, nagmalitong yawa, needed to rescue him and his brother from that island. So since the island is enchanted and can only be seen or can only be gone to by men because it's an enchanted island that's forbidden to women, nagmalitong yawa, a very powerful babaylan, had to change into Datu Sumasakay. So that's very transgenderism right there in 'di ba in epic poetry in prehistoric times. He had to embody and become Dato Sumasakay, a male warrior. That's very transgender. That's very transgenderism, and no one raises an eyebrow about it. And when he went there, as Dato Sumasakay, that wife nagmalitong yawa, he fought the Binukots. He was able to kill the leaders of the Binukots. And since her husband is still in the power of the spell of the enchantress, he had to fight with his husband. And every time he vanquishes the husband, the powerful sister way back home brings him to life. So ilang years silang naglaban. And then the battle ended with um, uh, uh, Dato Sumasakay and Humadap nun, at Labaw Dunggon, falling in love with each other in a sense that it's romance because he has never seen such a warrior who can match his skills. So he fell in love with the man that Datu Sumasakay is as his equal in battle and in masculinity. And that's why he dropped his weapon and conceded a truce between him and the equivalently feisty warrior. And in the end, discovers that it really was his wife in the body of a man. So that's bisexuality there. That's pansexuality there. You know? So, alam mo yon, if we but these things kasi need careful studies and careful curriculum development. Why we need this as a general subject? If it's to be a GE, why do the people need it? Even the President Duterte feels that we don't need algebra. We don't need basic math. No? So we can just put out opinions here and there about the educational system, but unless we have a clear understanding of why we need to do this, what do we replace it with, and what is the effect, then
Mm-mm.
did
Mm-mm.
I answer your question, Clifford?
Yeah, yeah, I think that sobra
Actually,
kami po nga nagsagot eh. Thank you for that, ano.
Actually, Marcel, very happy si Guilford. Sabi niya na, to Marcel, thank you for citing Nagmalitong Yawa. She's my badass Kiruway. And thank
That's
you
right.
also for this opportunity. And I guess that we have really been enriched with your insights, Marcel. So we thank you. And we really, from the bottom of Chakra Yoga Studios heart, you are really, we are really thankful for you saying yes, in spite and despite of all your guesting and talks. No, I'm sure that you are quite busy as well with all your advocacy work, and we admire you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank Thank you. you.
Thank you so much. Actually, this has been a great thing for me. This is my rest. This
Yeah,
is my meditation session because I don't have to prepare anything. I don't have to lecture anything. I'm just grateful that the questions are within my scope of competence because I'm also a writer,
mm, mm.
and I'm also in love with epic, with my own cultural identity as an Ilonggo, as a with the Hinilawod. Thank you for making Nagmalitong Yawa your badass heroine. I don't know, mine would be Aluncina maybe. And yeah, thank you so much, Chakra Chat. This has been a wonderful afternoon for me. I hope we have more of this. Yung sinasabi ni Seven na, we're just gonna be in a coffee shop and talking things and, just discussing here and there. And,
For sure
For
you
sure
will be
you will be
invited
it's a
for
rest.
the round table discussion. Na.
It's a rest for me, and just a casual talk, and we don't need to be technical about a lot of things. I really enjoyed the questions, Clifford, from here, there, and everywhere. I just hope I have the competence to I competently answered your questions as well. And Seven, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for inviting me. Teacher Sam, I hope we have future engagements as well. And I wish all the best for Chakra Chat and for Chakra Yoga Studios as well. And like I said, we have to understand that the struggle and the advocacy is we cannot cherry pick an advocacy. We cannot just tell ourselves that, hey, I'm just an LGBT advocate and not anything else, because it's a thread of humanity that binds us together, and the issue of one sector finds replication and finds the same issue in the next because of the same perpetrator of um, such conditions. We cannot also expect everyone to be in the same level of advocacy that we are. So we have to be patient with each other. Perhaps Clifford can also attest to this, that there are some who call themselves advocate who are not walking the talk. But if we need to be if we need to have more people carry the advocacy with them and for our voices to be louder, then we have to be patient with each other in, pulling each other aside and saying, hey, this might not be right what you said right there. Kasi especially if you're a feisty advocate, lalabanan mo yung mundo, we forget that we might be fighting our own allies who would have done better, greater things had we just taken the time to pull them aside and make them realize that they might have understood things a little bit differently than they should be, di ba? So, nakaka-stress kasi, di ba, toxic minsan, lalo sa social media. Alam niyo yung Seven yan, di ba? Sa advocacy ng mga, may mga gustong-gusto ka ng talagang, alam mo yung batukan, tanga-tanga mo. Pero, we, there's this sense of
Just
brotherhood.
let it
Just let it
go.
go. This sense of brotherhood that Or if you can, kung kaya mo pa, talk to the person, maybe he's just going through a lot of things, hindi lang siguro niya naintindihan. I'm just happy that, when I do that, it's because you mean a lot to me. Because if you don't mean a lot to me, I'm just gonna shake it off. There, so thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to more of these with you. And as my favorite closer, I always say, Amorem et Lucem, love and light, and nakakaloka!
Thank you,
Thank you,
Marcel. Thank you
Marcel.
so
Thank you so much.
much.
So, Marcel, we end our chakra chat session like how we usually end our yoga classes by placing our palms together in front of our faces and say namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, so